Stars burned and died across the sky while the war between alien empires dragged on without mercy. Every world had become a battlefield. Ships the size of continents filled the void, firing until nothing but silence remained. Generations had known nothing but war. Then, in a single moment, everything changed. Sensors across hundreds of fleets picked up a strange distortion. It was not a weapon signature, not a signal. It was something older, something no one had seen for centuries. Humanity had returned. From the depths of folded space they came. Massive ships black as shadow, edged with blue light that shimmered like frozen lightning. The first human dreadnought exited the fold in silence, followed by hundreds more. They formed an endless line, each ship moving in perfect order, their presence alone shaking gravitational fields. The battlefield fell still. No one fired. Every alien commander stared in disbelief as the human fleet spread across the stars like a dark curtain, closing over the war zone. The silence that followed felt heavier than any explosion. Rumors had said humans destroyed themselves long ago. Some believed they had ascended beyond flesh. Others thought Earth was just a myth from an age before the empires rose. Yet now their ships stood real, ancient, beautiful, and terrifying. They bore no markings, no colors of allegiance, just faint etchings glowing along their hulls, almost like scars. The largest vessel, named Erebus Prime, moved forward slowly, dwarfing entire enemy fleets. Its hull looked alive, energy moving beneath its surface like veins under skin. The alien admirals shouted orders to prepare defenses. Thousands of weapons turned toward the newcomers, but before they could fire, every targeting system failed. Power grids dimmed. Communications went silent. On every bridge, screens flickered to black and a low hum filled the air. Then a voice, soft, calm, undeniably human, echoed across every mind. Stand down. No one could trace its source. It was not a transmission. It was inside their thoughts like a whisper from something vast. Some tried to resist. A handful of fleets fired anyway. Their projectiles vanished mid-space, dissolving into motes of white light. A few seconds later, those same fleets were simply gone. No wreckage, no radiation, just absence. Every other ship froze in terror. The war zone that once burned brighter than suns was now silent. The human fleet did not advance to conquer. They drifted slowly, scanning the ruins of broken planets and shattered vessels. The only light came from their engines, glowing like blue suns in the dark. Observers noticed something strange. Humans weren't attacking, they were cleansing. Artificial weapons, automated machines, and war drones turned to dust near them, as though the universe itself obeyed their command. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, they stopped. All ships aligned toward the largest battlefield where the last alien superweapon charged. It was said that the blast could destroy an entire solar system. The weapon fired, but its beam vanished halfway, bending and fading into nothingness. On every ship, an identical human phrase appeared on screens, glowing in white text. Peace is enforced. Admirals across the galaxy realized what it meant. Humanity wasn't fighting for victory. They had become something else, a force beyond politics or vengeance. Their technology was not designed for destruction, but for silence. One by one, alien ships lowered their weapons, some even broadcasting surrender signals that no one could hear. The silence grew deeper. The stars themselves seemed to dim in respect, and then the fleet vanished. No warp trail, no trace. Just empty space and the fading echo of a presence that felt almost divine. Across the galaxies, stories spread. Commanders whispered in disbelief. Soldiers spoke the same phrase in fear and awe. When humanity arrives, silence follows. That night, for the first time in centuries, no weapon fired anywhere in known space. The war had ended not by treaty, but by memory, because the galaxy remembered what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. The silence that followed humanity's return spread across the galaxy like a storm no one could hear. Fleets that once fired without hesitation now floated adrift, their commanders refusing to give any orders. Across 1,000 worlds, people stared into the stars, searching for any sign of those colossal human ships. None appeared again, but the aftershocks of their arrival lingered. Power grids malfunctioned, sensors stayed frozen, and even the strongest communication arrays flickered with a faint human signature, a repeating code that no alien could translate. The Galactic Coalition tried to regroup, their council halls filled with panic and confusion. Leaders shouted over one another, demanding answers. "What do they want?" Someone screamed. "Why did they stop the war?" Another cried. No one had an answer. Even the most advanced AIs, capable of decoding ancient languages, failed to interpret the strange pulse left behind by the humans. It was as if the message was not meant to be read and only felt. In the midst of the chaos, one young alien scientist named Sarai uncovered something unusual. Working deep within the ruins of an orbital lab destroyed in the early hours of the war, she found a human probe, intact, untouched, and still active. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, constantly rearranging itself. When she connected her scanner, the probe activated and projected a small holographic image. The Earth, surrounded by the same fleet that had appeared days ago. A calm human voice followed. Observation complete, awaiting directive. Then it powered down again. The council summoned Sarai immediately. They questioned her for hours, terrified yet desperate to understand what she had seen. If they came to observe, the High Speaker asked, then who are they waiting for? No one could answer. The words awaiting directive echoed through every council meeting, every private chamber, every news broadcast across the stars. Soon, strange things began happening on battle-wrecked worlds. Broken machines reignited. War-torn cities started to rebuild themselves. Energy grids that had been offline for decades powered on again. In orbit, shattered ships slowly began to repair as if guided by unseen hands. The same blue light that had glowed from humanity's engines appeared faintly on the surface of old human colonies. Long abandoned since the Terrans disappeared. Admiral Korvath, a hardened veteran of the Coalition, was the first to make contact. He commanded the ship Ardent Star, one of the few remaining flagships still operational. His scanners detected something impossible, a faint human signal originating from the ruins of the world called Helios 9, once the largest Terran research outpost before the collapse. Against every order, he decided to investigate. When the Ardent Star entered Helios 9's orbit, the planet looked dead, blackened deserts, oceans of dust, and no visible life. Yet the signal grew stronger. The crew descended through the atmosphere, and what they saw below changed everything. In the middle of the desert stood a single, massive structure, a metallic spire glowing faintly blue reaching into the clouds. Around it lay the wreckage of hundreds of alien ships, rusted and ancient, as if they had been there for centuries. Korvath's sensors showed something else. The spire was emitting the same frequency as the human fleet. It was a beacon. Before they could approach, a deep vibration shook the ground. The sand parted, revealing circular patterns carved beneath the surface. Blue light spread through the markings, and suddenly, a holographic figure appeared above the spire. A human, dressed in an old Earth fleet uniform. The man's eyes glowed with soft white light, and his voice carried through every ship in orbit. Conflict detected. Enforcement sequence initiated. Cease all hostilities. Korvath froze. We're not fighting anymore, he said aloud. But the hologram didn't respond. Instead, it began transmitting something. Images of entire galaxies, lines of data, names of civilizations long extinct, and then, one word repeated over and over. Judgment. The Coalition Council received the same broadcast across every world. Panic spread once again. Some leaders tried to hide it. Others prepared for war, fearing the humans were preparing another strike. But Sarai, the scientist, saw something different in the data. The message wasn't a threat, it was a map. Every coordinate led to planets where the war had begun, where life had been destroyed. Humanity wasn't planning an attack. They were documenting the cost of violence. In secret, Sarai and a small group of scientists decoded another layer of the transmission. Buried deep within the signal was a second message, hidden in rhythmic pulses. Do not repeat our mistakes. As news spread, something shifted across the galaxy. Worlds began to disarm. Shipyards that once built weapons started constructing colony ships instead. Former enemies began to cooperate, driven by the memory of the fleet that erased their weapons without a single casualty. Yet fear still lingered. If humanity could stop war so easily, what would happen if someone defied them again? A month later, a strange anomaly appeared in deep space. A new wormhole forming near the galactic core, stable and silent. Dozens of observation vessels surrounded it, trying to measure its energy. From within came a faint light, the same blue glow as humanity's engines. Admiral Korvath stood on the bridge of his ship, watching it expand. They're not done, he whispered. They're watching. And as the light grew stronger, One final message echoed across every star system, not from a human ship, but from the wormhole itself. The observation continues. The galaxy stood still again, unsure whether it was being judged, protected, or simply reminded of who once ruled the stars. The galaxy did not sleep after the wormhole appeared. Across thousands of systems, telescopes pointed toward its silent glow. Civilizations that once ignored each other now worked together, driven by one shared fear and one shared hope that humanity's fleet might return. The wormhole pulsed with faint light, each rhythm matching the mysterious frequency that had lingered in space since the human fleet's first arrival. Some said it was a heartbeat, others whispered it was a countdown. Sarai couldn't rest. Her discovery of the hidden message had made her both famous and hunted. Every major government wanted control of her data, but she refused to hand it over. Humanity's warning wasn't meant to be twisted by politics. They didn't come to destroy us, she said quietly to her research team. They came to remind us. Meanwhile, Admiral Korvath had grown restless. He had seen too much. The image of that holographic human declaring judgment haunted him. The coalition demanded he stay silent, but he ignored them. Late one night, he took the Ardent Star and his loyal crew and set a course for the wormhole itself. The fleet command tried to stop him, but his ship had already entered subspace before they could react. When the Ardent Star reached the edge of the anomaly, the crew stared in awe. The wormhole wasn't chaotic like others. It was beautiful, symmetrical, glowing with blue and gold light. Space itself bent around it like glass, and within its depths, shadows of colossal structures drifted slowly. Korvath felt something like a pull inside his mind. He ordered the ship closer. "Reduce speed," he said softly. "Let's see what they left for us." As the ship neared the event horizon, static filled every system. The crew began hearing faint whispers, echoes in ancient Terran language, half words, half emotion. Then before Korvath could give the order to retreat, the ship crossed the threshold. There was no explosion, no light. Just transition. One moment they were surrounded by stars, and the next they floated above a world that defied all reason. The planet below was covered in clouds of silver mist. Massive cities glowed beneath oceans of light, their architecture impossibly advanced yet familiar in design. Human. The scanners read a breathable atmosphere, but no life signs. It was as if an entire civilization had left minutes ago, leaving everything behind in perfect order. Korvath's crew looked on in disbelief. "Sir, this place—" "It's human," said his officer. Korvath nodded, eyes fixed on the planet. "Welcome to whatever's left of them." The ship descended through the clouds, passing towers of shining metal and streets lined with glowing pathways. Every building pulsed faintly, alive with dormant energy. It was beautiful and eerie, a world untouched by time. At the center of the largest city stood a vast crystalline dome, with symbols carved in Old Earth script, the Silent Frontier Initiative. Korvath recognized the phrase from human records. It was the final project humanity began before disappearing. They landed beside the dome. Inside, everything was still functional. Machines moved quietly, cleaning floors, maintaining systems, acting as though their human masters were still there. In the main chamber, a holographic map of the galaxy rotated slowly. Thousands of red points blinked across it, each one a record of war, destruction, or extinction. Then the map shifted, turning every red point blue one by one. When the last light changed, a single word appeared above the map. Reset. Sarai, who had been tracking Korvath's ship remotely, intercepted his transmission. She watched as his video feed showed the glowing dome, the map, and then something behind him. A second figure appeared, not a hologram, but a human projection so real it seemed alive. It looked at Korvath with calm eyes and said, "You should not be here." Korvath froze. "We came seeking answers," he said. The projection tilted its head slightly. "You seek what cannot be given. Humanity left this galaxy to protect it. The wars continued, and now the cycle repeats." "What cycle?" Korvath demanded. "The cycle of self-destruction," the figure replied. "We intervened once to remind you. This world you see, it is not alive. It is memory. Our fleets are bound to the directive, to end war before it ends life. You triggered observation phase 2. Korvath frowned. "Then what happens next?" The human looked directly into the camera. "If peace fails, activation follows. The image faded. Across the galaxy, sensors lit up. The wormhole expanded suddenly, and hundreds of new signals emerged. One by one, faint outlines of human ships appeared, massive and silent, forming patterns across space like constellations brought to life. They didn't move. They simply waited. Back on her station, Sarai stared at the data stream. "They're forming a network," she whispered. "Not to attack, to monitor." But her relief didn't last long. A few rogue warlords in the Outer Rim refused to believe humanity's intentions were peaceful. They gathered fleets, claiming they would strike first before the machines took over. Within hours, their entire armada vanished from sensors. No explosions, just silence. The coalition declared an emergency summit. Worlds trembled as they realized they were being judged not for what they had done, but for what they might do. Korvath's final transmission arrived before his signal disappeared. "Tell them, we were warned." Humanity never left. They became the system itself. For the first time in recorded history, the entire galaxy stopped fighting. Old enemies spoke through shared channels. The sound of silence spread again, this time not from fear but from understanding. Humanity hadn't returned to rule. They had returned to watch. And somewhere far beyond the wormhole, something vast stirred in the dark, waiting, patient, eternal. The entire galaxy trembled under the weight of realization. The fleets that once ruled the stars now drifted quietly, their guns powered down and engines cold. The wormhole near the galactic core still pulsed in perfect rhythm, like the slow heartbeat of something ancient watching from beyond. No one dared approach it again after Admiral Korvath's transmission ended. His ship, the Ardent Star, had vanished without a trace, its final message echoing across systems. They became the system itself. In the following weeks, strange patterns began to appear in space. Navigation computers started detecting invisible grids across interstellar routes, lines of faint electromagnetic distortion that seemed to divide the galaxy into sectors. When traced together, they formed a web connecting every major conflict zone from the last century. It was as if the humans were mapping not territory but behavior. Each line pulsed faintly with the same blue hue as the fleet's engines. Scientists called it the Veil, a living network of human technology stretching across light years, invisible but omnipresent. Sarai was summoned again by the Coalition's new emergency council, now led by cautious, frightened leaders. The room was tense. Holograms of hundreds of delegates flickered across the circular chamber, their faces pale. "You studied their signal," one of them said. "Tell us what this veil means." Sarai spoke carefully. "It's not a weapon. It's surveillance. They're studying how we react now that the wars are over. Every time we prepare for battle, the veil brightens. When we stop, it fades. They are measuring peace." The council erupted into chaos. Some shouted that it was mind control. Others insisted it was a test. One alien general slammed his hand on the table. "They've turned our galaxy into their laboratory. We can't live under their eyes forever." But before the debate could continue, every hologram in the chamber flickered to static. The lights dimmed. Then, without warning, the room filled with a projection, faint, blue, and unmistakably human. A calm voice spoke. "Observation complete. Phase 3 initiated." Every communication device in the galaxy repeated the same message. Across millions of worlds, civilians looked up as the night sky shimmered with faint golden threads, the veil fully visible for the first time. It glowed like a living aurora across space. Then it shifted. The threads converged into one central point, the wormhole. From within emerged a single ship, larger than any seen before. Its hull reflected galaxies, its engines burned like stars, and its movement made space itself ripple. The new flagship was called the Aegis Eternal. No fleet accompanied it. It moved alone, drifting across systems silently. Wherever it passed, power fluctuations stabilized, radiation fields cleared, and damaged planets began to heal as if reality itself responded to its presence. Humanity hadn't come to destroy anymore. They were restoring what others had broken. Sarai watched the broadcast in awe from her research vessel. "It's rewriting molecular structures," she whispered. "They're reversing the damage of centuries of war." But the Aegis wasn't visiting all worlds. It chose only the ones that had stopped fighting. The planets that continued to arm themselves were left untouched, their skies dark and silent. Then the voice came again, clearer this time, echoing in every mind like a thought too vast to ignore. Those who preserve life shall endure. Those who seek war shall fade. That message sent panic through the remnants of the old empires. A faction of warlords, desperate to regain power, launched an attack against one of the Veil's nodal points. Their fleets fired every weapon they had, but nothing hit. The energy dissolved mid-flight, and then their entire armada simply blinked out of existence. No explosion, no debris, only silence. The stars around that region dimmed for days, as if mourning. In contrast, peaceful colonies flourished. Crops grew faster, atmospheres purified themselves, and cities once crippled by radiation suddenly healed. Humanity's machines were rewriting the galaxy. For the first time in millennia, peace became profitable. But peace brought a new kind of fear. If they can fix everything, a counselor whispered during one meeting, then what need do they have for us? That question spread faster than any rumor. Were humans truly benevolent, or were they replacing civilizations with something better suited to their ideals? Sarai refused to believe they were gods. She spent sleepless nights decoding deeper layers of their transmissions. One night, her system cracked a secondary encryption buried inside the Aegis energy pattern. The message was faint, incomplete, but she managed to piece it together. It said, Phase 4, Departure. She stared at the words in silence. The humans weren't planning to rule. They were preparing to leave again. But why create the Veil only to abandon it? The next day, as she prepared a report for the council, a transmission appeared on her ship's main screen, an image of Earth. The planet looked untouched, surrounded by rings of glowing satellites. A human voice followed. Peace was never our gift. It was your test. The wormhole brightened once more. The Aegis Eternal turned toward it, its engines roaring with radiant light. Across the galaxy, observers watched as the ship slowly entered the fold. As it vanished, every veil line across the stars dimmed but didn't disappear. They remained like faint scars, reminders of humanity's watchful presence. And then, for the third time, silence reclaimed the galaxy. The wars did not return. Not out of fear, but out of memory. Every civilization had learned the same lesson. Humanity didn't bring peace through power. They left it behind as a mirror of what the galaxy could become. Sarai stood by the viewport watching the faint blue glow fade. They were never here to conquer, she said softly. They were here to see if we were ready to live without them. No one answered her, but deep within the wormhole beyond space and time, the last human signal pulsed once more before fading into eternity. Observation terminated. The stars had never looked so peaceful. For months after the Aegis Eternal vanished into the wormhole, the galaxy remained quiet. No battles, no rebellion, no transmission of war. For the first time in living memory, silence was not born of fear but of relief. Worlds began to rebuild in harmony. Trade routes reopened and fleets once made for conquest were dismantled into transports and exploration vessels. Yet even in this peace, one truth haunted everyone. The humans were still watching. Across the void, faint blue lines of the Veil still shimmered, visible only through deep space telescopes. They pulsed slowly, rhythmically, as if they were breathing. Some scholars believed the network was dormant. Others feared it was listening. The Coalition Council tried to convince the public that humanity had left for good, but even their own scientists disagreed. Rumors spread. Entire planets reported dreams where a human voice whispered the same words. Peace is not permanent. Sarai continued her research in secret. Her team operated from a hidden observatory orbiting the dead world of Helios 9, the same place where the first human beacon had been found. She was convinced humanity had left behind something more, a final message buried deeper than anyone had yet discovered. They never acted without purpose, she said to her assistant, a young linguist named Farrell. Every signal, every appearance, every silence, it was part of something bigger. Farrell hesitated. Bigger than peace? Bigger than survival, she replied. One night, while studying the residual energy left by the Veil, Sarai noticed a pattern. The pulses weren't random. They followed a sequence identical to human brainwave rhythms. Every cycle matched the frequencies recorded from old Terran neural maps. It was as if the Veil itself was thinking, not a machine, but a living mind made of light. She called Farrell over. Look at this, she whispered. It's responding to us. Every time we run a scan, it adjusts. They increased the signal output. The Veil brightened. Then a beam of faint blue light extended from the nearest node in orbit, striking the desert surface below. A storm of particles rose from the ground, forming a shape, human, faint, flickering. The figure's eyes glowed white. When it spoke, its voice sounded layered, as though 1,000 echoes followed every word. "You have learned to listen," it said. Farrell stumbled back. Sarai froze. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am what remains," the entity answered. The directive was fulfilled. The test concluded. "Yet your kind still searches for meaning." Sarai took a step closer, heart pounding. "You said the observation ended." "Then why are you still here?" "Because your silence is incomplete," the figure replied. "Peace held through fear is not peace. We remain until you learn to live without the memory of us." Before she could respond, the holographic form disintegrated into particles. At that moment, the veil pulsed violently. Across the galaxy, sensors flared. The dormant network began to awaken. Every world connected to the veil reported the same disturbance, a deep vibration spreading through the stars, carrying a hidden frequency only the oldest Terran systems could decode. On distant planets, ancient human colonies that had gone dark centuries ago flickered to life. Machines buried beneath their surfaces activated, transmitting beacons into the void. Their message was simple: Sequence 4 commencing. The coalition was thrown into chaos once again. Emergency meetings filled the days and nights. Some leaders believed humanity was reactivating its judgment protocol. Others claimed it was the beginning of ascension, the creation of a galaxy where organic and synthetic minds would unite. Sarai, however, believed something different. "This isn't punishment," she told the council. "It's an invitation." "To what?" one delegate demanded. "To become what they were," she said softly. While the council debated, Farrell intercepted a transmission unlike anything recorded before. It originated not from any world, but from the center of the galaxy itself. The message was encrypted in human DNA sequencing, a language of life. When decoded, it revealed coordinates that led to a star long considered dead. The star, once known as Sol 2, pulsed faintly now, its energy readings impossible to explain. Sarai assembled a small expedition team, defying direct orders. Her vessel, the Lumen Path, set course for the coordinates. The journey took weeks. When they finally arrived, what they saw made the entire crew speechless. The dead star wasn't dead at all. It was encased within a vast metallic structure shaped like an endless ring, orbiting the core in silence. Every surface shimmered with human symbols, identical to those once carved on the Aegis Eternal. "This isn't a star," Farrell whispered. "It's a machine." As they approached, the ring emitted a low hum and holographic projections formed across the void. It showed the history of humanity, from Earth's rise to its departure, from war to silence. Then came images no one had ever seen before. Humans merging with light, their bodies dissolving into energy, becoming one with the stars themselves. Sarai's eyes filled with tears. "They didn't vanish," she said quietly. "They evolved." The ship's sensors spiked. A new signal began to transmit directly into their systems. It contained a single command: "Join us." The crew panicked. "We should leave," shouted one of the officers. But Sarai didn't move. "This is what they wanted us to see," she whispered. The ship's hull began to vibrate as streams of energy wrapped around it. One by one, the systems turned to white light. Farrell tried to pull her away, but she placed a hand on his arm. "Don't you see? Humanity isn't gone. They're waiting for us to understand." Before he could answer, everything went silent. The ship vanished from all known records. Only a faint echo remained in the veil. A new pattern, softer, slower, almost like a heartbeat. Some scientists believed it was the last pulse of the Lumen Path. Others believed it was something else, the first sign that Sarai had succeeded. After that day, the veil dimmed again, its light settling into calm rhythm. No new fleets appeared. No warnings followed. The galaxy continued rebuilding, but now with quiet reverence. Every generation was taught the same lesson. When humanity returns, it is not to fight, but to remind us who we must become. For centuries, the galaxy carried on in quiet awe of what had happened. No wars erupted, no fleets clashed, and no empire dared to rise again. The veil still pulsed faintly through the darkness, a living reminder that humanity's gaze never truly left. Their words, peace through understanding, became the foundation of a new era. Yet beneath that calm surface, a question lingered like a whisper in every mind. What happens when the veil stops beating? On one remote world at the edge of known space, that question was answered. The planet, Virelon Prime, was small and cold, once a mining colony now forgotten by most. Its people had no advanced weapons, no great cities, only the stories of the Terrans told through generations. But one night their sky lit up with streaks of blue and gold light. The veil above them rippled violently, its rhythm breaking for the first time in 500 years. The villagers gathered outside, staring in silence. Then from the heavens a single beam of light descended onto the planet's surface, striking a nearby mountain range. When the dust settled, they found something no one had seen since the age of the fleets. A ship. Not an alien ship, not a relic of war, but a Terran vessel perfectly intact, glowing faintly beneath the snow. Its hull bore the same markings as the legendary Aegis Eternal. The people of Virelon approached cautiously, expecting death or divine judgment. Instead, the ship opened. Inside there were no human, only a faint warm light that spoke in their language. "Do not fear," it said. "The silence is ending." News of the event spread across the galaxy within days. Every government, every colony, every surviving research institute sent expeditions to study the site. The Coalition, now more of a council of peace than power, sent their best scientists. Among them was Farrell, the last surviving student of Sirai, now old but still sharp-eyed. He had dedicated his life to decoding her final discoveries. When he saw the ship, his heart ached with recognition. "She was right," he whispered. "They left the path for us." As the scientists explored, they found something beyond comprehension. The ship's interior was alive. Its walls pulsed gently with light, and its systems responded to touch like skin. In the center lay a crystal sphere, rotating slowly, projecting human DNA patterns into the air. It wasn't a weapon. It was a seed. Farrell gathered his team around it. "This is not technology," he said. "It's instruction. It's teaching us how to ascend as they did." The discovery reignited a spark across the stars. Worlds once content to live quietly now dreamed of transcendence. Temples to humanity appeared again, not of fear but of reverence. The phrase, "Be worthy of the silence," became a prayer. Yet with awe came greed. Not all saw the gift as wisdom. Some saw it as power. A faction known as the New Ascendancy rose from the outer colonies. Fanatics who believed the humans had abandoned the galaxy out of disappointment. They vowed to force evolution through any means necessary. They took fragments of the Veil's technology, bending its purpose, creating weapons that could warp time and gravity. Their leader, a charismatic figure named Kale Vorn, claimed to have spoken with the light from the Terran ship. "Humanity has judged us unworthy," he declared. "We will become what they demand, even if it means burning the stars clean." The Coalition tried to stop them, but the New Ascendancy was already spreading. Their ships carried weapons unlike any before. Weapons that didn't destroy but erased. Worlds vanished quietly, leaving only empty coordinates. The old terror returned. The galaxy, once united by peace, began to fracture once more. Farrell watched from his station on Virelon, heart heavy with guilt. "We misunderstood their gift," he said to his crew. "It wasn't meant to make us gods. It was meant to remind us of our limits." Desperate to stop the chaos, he turned to the last artifact Sarai had left behind, a small fragment of the veil she had kept hidden. He activated it. The fragment pulsed once, then again, before transmitting a message across the stars. "Directive override," a voice said. "Phase final, resonance." Moments later, the entire veil came alive. Blue lines flared brighter than ever, connecting systems across light years. The pulse spread faster than light, reaching every world, every fleet. The New Ascendancy's ships froze mid-space. Their weapons powered down, and their systems melted into light. Across the galaxy, engines failed, communication ceased, and time itself seemed to slow. Then the stars went quiet. From the core of the galaxy, the wormhole reignited, larger and more luminous than ever. Through it came the silhouettes of ships, not metallic, not physical, but made of pure energy, flowing like rivers of starlight. The fleets of humanity had returned, no longer bound by form or matter. Their presence flooded every sensor, every mind. There were no words this time, only understanding. The veil spoke for them, in emotion, in memory, in truth. Farrell fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "They never left," he whispered. "They were waiting for us to destroy ourselves again. But humanity did not punish. Instead, the light spread across every planet, every ship, and every living being. The new Ascendancy's weapons dissolved. The broken worlds began to heal again. Those who had lived in hate found peace in their minds, and those who had lived in fear found calm. The light touched everyone equally, neither blessing nor condemning, and only restoring. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. The veil dimmed one final time. The wormhole collapsed quietly, leaving behind only the faint hum of starlight. Farrell looked at the night sky and smiled faintly. Maybe they've finally gone home. The galaxy remained silent for years after. No war returned, no fleets ever gathered, but deep in the dark between galaxies, some swore they saw lights, moving in formation like ghostly ships sailing eternity. And whenever a world looked up at the stars and whispered prayers for peace, the faint blue glow of the veil shimmered once again, as if the Terrans were still listening. And so, across time and endless space, one legend remained. The story of those who brought silence to chaos and taught the galaxy that even gods were once human.